Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to look at skiving the ends of your leather for a better finish and a better bespoke product. I'm Simon and welcome to Oakside Saddlery. So what do we mean by skiving? So skiving, unlike what I used to do at school, which was skive off most of the time, in leatherwork term it's to fold the ends of the leather together in a return or something that actually makes it look a bit nicer. So if you want to upgrade your game, this is the sort of thing you need to learn. So we're going to have a look at skiving the ends of what's going to be basically a simple keychain. So we've got a nice little bit of leather here. This is a bit of Sedgwick leather again, 3/4 of an inch thereabouts, might be a little bit short. We're going to have a little turn on one end and another bit of a longer turn on the other end. We're going to stitch them together. We're going to have a trigger hook on one end and a D-ring on the other. So it'll end up looking something like that. Now, skiving then. That piece there doesn't look very nice, does it? You know, when you stitch that together, it'd look a big lump there. You could change it, and we could, if we wanted to, but it's sort of like a head collar-y type affair. We could push it all the way up to there and bump it together like that. In that case, then it would look quite nice. It leaves a little bit of space there for that. You've got to get that nice and tight, really, so it sits in there really well. But that's not what we're going to look at today. Tidy up the other end as well. So we're going to look at perhaps 1.5 inches maybe return on there, and something that's around about 3 or 4 inches long, and it's going to look there. So we're going to tidy these ends up, tidy this up here. So the first thing I need to find out then is roughly where this edge here is going to be. That's simple, because I'm not measuring this or doing anything fancy with it. All I've got to do is get that to where I want it, pinch them together like that, and I can see that somewhere around there is going to be my last stitch. So I've got a nice little mark on there. I'm just going to cut that off, nice and simple to do on a few bits and pieces. So there's one thing, there's my mark, just there. Cut that off there, nice little line, go by eye, square it off across there. Don't need that piece. So there's our bit of leather. Short return, longer return. So skiving the ends, we have two different types here. So if you're doing your city and guilds, I'm assuming they still do that blooming Irish martingale starter thing that does your head in, trying to get it all nice and tidy. This is what you end up having to do. So we're going to skive one end down, half of it, half thickness. The other one we're going to skive down to nothing. So let's have a look at how we can do that. Ideally, you want a nice little granite block or something that you're not going to damage your knives on. I'm just going to do it on my cutting mat, mostly because I normally mess it up. But let's have a look. So we've got a standard type of skiving knife, paring knife, whichever you want to call them. These are left and right-handed. I'm right-handed, so it will sit in my right hand. Whether that's still right-handed to you or not is another thing. We'll use it across the leather and just slightly cutting in and pushing at the same time. Or you can use something like a head knife. So this is a single head knife. You could use a double head knife, single head knife, whatever you want to use. Different people, different ideas, see how they go. I'm going to do this standing up. I wouldn't normally, so this might be a fun thing. So let's have a look at our first thing. First one then, let's give that a bit of a tighten. Tighten? Sharpen, whatever you call it. Just going to put my little sharpening block on it. So again, all we're going to do is try and find that angle. So there it is, roughly there. Good couple of stripes down one way. Lay it flat, drag it back. That's all we need to do. Just take that burr off the back. Again, on the other side, which hasn't got any polish and compound on it. Drag it back. And that'll do for that. So let's have a look at them. The first end we're going to do is this end here. We're going to take this down to half thickness. Roughly, when you're going to stitch, it's going to stitch about there. We want to start just after that stitching, so we keep the full thickness of the leather on our first stitches. And ideally, what we want to do is the other one's going to finish just where that one starts. So let's have a look at some of this then. Let's go for the first part. We're going to place our knife on it. We're going to get our angle. So I want this to come down to there somewhere. That's about 1 inch back. And I'm just going to start sliding it. And all we're doing is a little bit of pressure down, bit of pressure towards the front. And as we get near the end, slow it down, see what we're going to get. And there we have our end taken off. So if we look at our two edges, we can see we haven't quite gone through thick as we'd like, because there's a little lip there. So we can sort that out. You don't have to do this in one go. But you can see that we've taken a good thickness down to that leather. But if I still put that together, when we put this into here, we're still going to have a little bump. So we want to lose that. So all I'm going to do again is just try and take that last bit. Now, some people use that still. I rather like to change to my head knife now. And I'm going to do this in a way that most people won't do. I'm just going to gradually putting bits of it on at the same time. And all I do, I've got most of my pressure is down, a little bit to the front. You can just see I'm taking little tiny thin bits off at a time. Get rid of that so you can see what we're up to. Again, just taking them nice little thin pieces off so that you can just see now where I can start to see to the grain side sticking through. There's a little bump there, so I'm going to clear that away. A little bump there, I'm going to clear that away. If we look now, look how much thinner that is. So that's properly thinned right down. You can lose that somewhere, couldn't you? Need to tidy this end up because we don't want these hairy ends. See where you get like a hairy end sitting out there? So we're just going to put it on the mat, drag it back, line it up with my knife, just cut them off there. Still a little bit of a bump, so let's lose that. Again, let's just carry on through. So we're just going to push a little bit more. And this time, there goes that last little nick. A little bit more there I can see. So again, like with most things, yes, I look at it and it all feels smooth. If I rub my fingers across it, not that I can feel a lot through my fingers, but if I rub my fingers across it, I can feel whether there's any bumps, and there's no bumps in that. End of it is probably down to about 1/4 mil. There's a little bit more there I can take out. And there you go. Properly thin, properly nice. So that's our first end. So that's skiving it down to nothing. And we skive it down to nothing, it means that when that folds in, as you can see on there now, it will sit lovely and smooth against that leather, so we won't see it. What I also want to do then, get rid of them hairy ends again that we've got. So just across there, I'm also going to nick them corners. So I'm going to tack across there, tack across there. That's one end finished. Easy enough, isn't it? One of my pet hates then, anytime you leave a knife lying around on the bench, you can guarantee you're going to put something on it and then cut it and nick yourself. So make sure you put these out the way for the time being and get rid of all this. Throw it on the floor, chuck it in a bin, do whatever you need to do with it. Get rid of it. You don't want it marking your back of your leather when you do it. So that's one side. Now the other side, this side here, we're going to take down to about half thickness, probably a little bit over on this because it's not very big. Depends on what you're doing and what your job is. You know, what your project is. If it's too big, it will look silly. If it's too small, again, it starts to go a bit thin. So again, we're going to look at about half an inch or so. So around about the same distance that is. So let's put that back down again on the bench. We're going to go from about here somewhere. And this time when I push in, I'm just going to try and take down about half that thickness. So that's around about there somewhere. So if we look at them two ends, you can see I want to go a little bit more. So I'm going to take another little piece off of that. There's also a bump there. See where it comes up? So I'm just going to take that piece out. There we go. Much better. So let's have a feel. So if I feel across there, looks quite smooth, but I can feel there's a few little bumps. So again, what I'm going to do is go back to my head knife and I'm just going to take, there's one of them, and there's another one there, a bigger one. I'm going to take them off. Better. So what you also need to make sure when you even this out, this isn't too bad, it's only 3/4 of an inch wide. If it's wider, you need to make it consistently the same width all the way across it. So if you was doing a 2-inch, I had a 2-inch dog collar somewhere. If you're doing a 2-inch dog collar, you need to get that right in there, yeah? So let's tidy that end up. So again, we're just going to line my knife up with there, take that edge off. I'm going to take a corner off of there and a corner off of there. Good. I can feel just in there is a little lip just on that edge. That's better. Nick that off there. There you go. So there is my skived ends. You can see it would look a lot tidier than what it was previously, wouldn't it? Because when that's stitched together, if I get that nice and square when I stitch, we can have a look at it and see what it goes like. That's skiving. It's not complicated, it's nice and simple. I might even finish this off then and show what the rest of it looks like in a moment. Could skip through it, I suppose. Anyway, let's have a look at the finished project. So back again with the almost finished article. I've done one side for you, so you can see what it looks like from the front. You can see what it looks like from the rear. See one of the finished edges. But what I've left is one side that I haven't actually stained and polished yet. So that edge there, you can just see, where's something I can point with. If we look there, we can just see there's the edge of the thin one. It runs down there and somewhere. See if I can find that edge down here. If I can get, there it is. Not that I'm messing this up. And there's another line that runs just down there. So there's our thin edge tapered to nothing, nicely stitched together. And then this side here is our half width ones. So my last stitch, what I measured up there, cuts across at the back of there. So there's 2 stitches there, 2 stitches there. That's a finishing one. So there's an end there and an end there. This is the good side. So the side that I stitch from is stitched from this side. So this is hand stitched. Remember, I'm going to do a video on hand stitching eventually. So that side there is my hand stitched side. This is the reverse side of it. You can see all the marks there, which are buff out once I finish polishing it. But there's our nice finished edge. You can get these if you just rub on them, probably not with a roundel, but some sort of buffing type stick. The more you do on it, the shinier they go. You can polish them with your fingers if you need to, but we can do all of that on another video. There's a little dent there. I'll polish that out a bit later maybe. Put a bit of wax there and that'll fill that up. But this side here is the last side I've got to finish off. So I'll finish that up and that's us done for the day. So hopefully you learned something from your skiving. Skiving sort of thing that really makes your leather work stand out. It looks better. Start looking at some of the chopboard stuff and all you can see are ends of leather that are just, as that bit would be, square like that. No finish to it. No finesse put to it, usually stitched across there, which is not perforated paper, rivets or some sorts, or a Chicago screw in there on the buckle on, and that's what they do. So if you want a decent bit of leather work, then maybe order it from someone who does handmade, like me. So if you fancy a bit of leather work that's nicely bespoke and made for you, have a look at my website, which is www.oaksidesaddlery.co.uk. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video and you learned anything, then consider hitting that like button. Subscribe if you want to see some more. Different videos, different things. Have a look at my shorts. I put all manner of different rubbish things on there. And if you enjoyed it, so just have a look, hit that like button. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. And thank you and have a nice day. Goodbye.